Hello everyone, so we're back. Now I'm going to start working on doing the belt loop for back here on this little doodad. Now I have my friend's belt, and it's got a... Now what's interesting about leather is the thicker the leather, the longer your piece has to be. Otherwise, it won't fit. So the more leather there is, the more leather has to wrap around an object. So keeping that in mind, this is why if you go buy a belt and they're all like the same lengthwise, why one fits a little small and one doesn't. So check the thickness of the leather, because that will make a difference in what belt size you may need to use. So because I'm making basically a belt loop for the belt, same rule applies. So I'm going to go ahead and score this just like that. Because the size fits perfectly right across there, no matter which way it goes. So this way it'll still leave a little overhang, so the belt will be able to slip right in. And that width seems about right for everything anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. Set the belt aside, pull out my roller cutter that I really need to get a new blade for. And I got this leather really wet this time, so it makes it a lot easier to cut. Do the same thing here. Right, now that that's all cut, go ahead and cut this off right there. Put my scraps aside. This is where it starts to taper off, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it right there. Alright, now I need to figure out what spot exactly I want that to go. So bring my belt back over here, bring my friend's belt I should say, and I think I want that to move right about there. So that means my sew line is going to be right about here. Again, my sew line is going to be right about there. Going to mark it there, there on both sides. Yep, and I'm just going to need to pull that to probably stretch that out. I might need to make that a little bit wider. Well, I don't know yet. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my stitches. Let's see, where did I put my stitching wheel? There it is. Okay. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and rub that out and probably use a different marking spot. going to start here. Get my holes punched for my threads. That'll be all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and open this all up. Remove some of those pieces because I don't need them right now. They're just kind of going to be in the way. So, move those. Alright, so go to my back. That's where I marked those at, so I'm just going to go ahead and make sure everything tries and lines up nice and straight. Because I want to reinforce this, I'm just going to go ahead and put a second sew line in. Eyeball it right there. Now I don't want the stitching holes to be so close, especially with a thick needle that I've got and a thick thread, because the closer the holes are going to be, the more likely the leather is going to be weakened. So I need to have some space so that way I keep the integrity on the leather. Make sure those are nice and open. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut this all pretty. That kind of wandered, didn't it? Not as straight on that second job as I wanted it to be. I'll go ahead and round the corner. It's going to make it so nothing will snag on that or anything. This, I'm going to go ahead and use a saddle stitch. So I'm going to show you guys what that is. First of all, you do need 2 needles to do it. pull out some thread here. I only need not very much, but because I'm going to be doing this twice, I think I'll do it right here. So you're going to put a needle in on each end. Remember how I showed you doing that secure knot? So you take your tail and you push your needle through, and that secures your needle. So that's not going to go anywhere. Put your tail through, and through there. There you go. So now I've got a needle at both ends on my loop. Now what's interesting about the saddle stitch is it's not like, it looks like a sewing machine does it, but it's not. Because what happens with a sewing machine is you basically have a needle doing little zigzags, and then you have a needle at the bottom that's just grabbing the thread. So if you ever pull out a thread in your clothing, how the whole thread goes zip like that up the seam, that's what a sewing machine does when it sews. And doing a saddle stitch won't do that, because you're going to be doing an in and out, like a running stitch, but then with your second needle you're doing the same thing. So it ends out being thread looped on leather. I'm going to open up the backs because those aren't as well defined as I would hope they would be. That makes it so much harder to get a needle through. So I want those to be nice, clear, and open. That's going to allow me to put my needle through cleanly without a whole lot of effort. Well, it still takes effort, but not to the point where I have to fight it with like a pair of pliers or anything, because that's just no fun. I have broken needles doing that. Breaking a needle off in your bare hands trying to pull it through leather is dangerous, and it's not fun. I've put a couple needles through my fingers in the process of learning that. I hope you guys can see. I'm going to reopen these up. Because again, for the same reason, it just makes it much easier for my awl to go through. Wow, I can't even see that one at all. Okay, that looks a little bit better. And pinching the spots where I made my holes will actually close my holes off. And so I'm trying to be careful not to do that. It's tough enough just to get the needle through without opening everything and then closing it right back off. Not fun at all. Alright, I think that's good. Now, because I don't want any knots to be rubbing out, I'm actually going to be starting in a middle zone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where I'll be hiding my knots. I'll be hiding it right inside there. So make sure my needles are even. Take one of these, push it straight down here, if it will line back up. Alright, now I'm going to take my second needle, and right where I came down, I'm going to put my needle right back up through it. Hopefully I don't catch any threads on the way, and I don't think I did. Alright, so I'm going to reline these back up. And pull that nice and tight. So this is how you do a saddle stitch. Front to back. Set that aside. Back to front. You want to keep everything really, really snug. I'll pull that front to back. Back to front. So there, it looks like I'm doing a sewing machine stitch, but if I pull one thread that's loose, of course it's looped on the leather. So it's not going to come out, it's not going to go anywhere. Front to back. And back to front. So if anyone out there does any kind of hand sewing, this is the way to do it. The reason being because your threads don't come out near as much, especially if you get a break in one section and you pull on that little end, it won't pull out all the way. And I think I am just going to go over like that. So front to back, back to front, make sure everything's nice and tight, front to back, back to front, so this is how you do your saddle stitch. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to let the video keep going. You can skip ahead in this video if you want to. So I'll probably be just leaving it running enough to show you how I hide my knots. Front to back, back to front. Now there's another way you can also do a saddle stitch where you have a single needle and when you get back to a certain corner, you're just doing a running stitch, and you make a loop and do a running stitch back the opposite way, and it'll fill in all the gaps too. Which I use that method quite frequently. Then I don't have to worry about catching threads so much because my running stitch is already really tight, and I don't have to mess and worry about any of that. Oh, that's wanting to catch that thread. As well as catch on some leather fibers. I found if I used a little bit of blunt tip needles, I don't run the risk of catching my threads as much. But unfortunately, if you use a blunt tipped needle, you're going to be going with a thicker needle, which isn't always best, especially if you're working on thinner leather than what I'm working on. It just can be disastrous because it will weaken the leather quite a bit. So size matters. That hole's wanting to close up on me. I think I still got it without worrying too much. Oh, see? This is what I meant by fighting the leather. I'm just going to go ahead and open that right back up because it is wanting to get all wonky on me. Front to back.